Right here. All right, True Colors, the Educator Edition. So this is an interesting thing. I retook my assessment and I ended up falling into a different group this time. And what happens is there's the personal you and then there's the professional you. And the reason why we're having this discussion particularly is because you as an educator drive the instruction and the climate in your classroom. With that being said, with so many different personalities, sometimes it's really helpful to have some type of indicator beyond the performance data to determine what we're doing with our classes and how we can categorize them. So the whole goal of today is to understand yourself, understand others, and appreciate differences. All right, so what is your true color on the spectrum? So this is the color version of the card, but you have the same thing in the pre-work where you were basically going to go through each row and you were supposed to rate which one you are best at or most describes you with a 4 and things that do not describe you at all as a 1. And you were supposed to do that in each category. Now, as you fill out those responses, please keep in mind that you want to answer as you are, not as you wish to be. It's very easy to say, well, I'm organized, but if you never have your lesson plans turned in on time and you can't find your files in your drive, then you're not technically organized, right? Or let's say you think, well, I'm completely ambitious, but if there's an opportunity to sign up for a program or to lead some type of initiative and you are shy because you feel like others might get the position over you, then that's not really ambitious, right? You have to jump out there and try risky things and just give it a try anyway. So again, answer as you are, not as you wish to be. So I always say if you struggle with a role, to always go with what you're not first. Give that a 1, right? It's always easier to say what you are not than it is to say what you are. Some people struggle describing themselves. But if you really go with what you're not, and then you can play around with 2 or 3, which one am I more likely to be? Which one am I almost not like? And you do that for each one of those rows. The 4 should be the one that you're most, and the 3s should be kinda. 1s, I'm completely not. 2s, if you catch me on one of those days where I'm not so super professional, I might be in that 2 category. All right, next slide. So beyond that, you're going to find that you're going to be categorized and you're going to be able to put them into the categories that you fit in. Now, as you'll notice in each one of these areas, for instance, I love the fact that in row 1, active, opportunistic, and spontaneous fits me perfectly in my personal life. But as a professional, I really don't fit into that category. I'm a little bit more objective with my behaviors at work, but at home, you catch me on the street, hey, we're gonna have a good time. I'm ready to, I'm not jumping out of a plane, but I will jump into a body of water. I'm okay with that. Or I will, try a different recipe, whether that's over by the counter or from the refrigerator. So, like, you got to have those flexibilities when it comes to life. And so I'm more free outside of the building than I am inside. Even though many of you might say I have a big personality inside of a workplace, I have more personality than most would be in my role with that, but I'm not as open as I am. I'm much worse at home. You'll have to take my word for it. You'll never see it. All right. So after you've calculated all of your areas, we're going to work on identifying the strengths, joys, values, and needs, and then identify your stressors and frustration. So before we get going, we're going to get into the chat box. That's the best way to do it. I know that most of you are probably still trying to figure out which one you fit into. So if you are in group 1, I want you to just put group 1 if those numbers were higher after you added them together. If you were in group 2, put that, group 2, if your number group 2 was higher. Group 3, and then group 4. And let's see what our consensus is. And I'll give you a few minutes for those of you, just a few seconds for those of who were trying to catch up if you didn't get a chance to do it. All right, we got a good mix in here. Great mix. All right. So here we are. I think that's enough answers for us to get started. We had someone that was a balance of 2. Great. All right. So if you are AHKNS as high numbers and you ended up in group 1, your color is orange. Okay, you are orange. The next group, BGIMT, you are gold. Right? Everybody got that? We have our orange group and our gold group. Group 3, letters C, F, J, O, and R, you are blue. And then our last group, group 4, letters D, E, L, P, Q as your highest numbers, you are green. Now, like I said, when I took this assessment as a professional, I ended up being green, which was completely shocking to me. But as a person, and years ago, as I've taken this assessment out of my professional mind, I was always orange. And so let's take a look at some of the things that are attractive to these colors. So let's start with the orange group. We always say that's the rowdy group, all right? So if you look through the chat box and you see group 1, we'll see if we have some rowdiness from that group. Oh, there's Miss Scoggins. Oh, she says not true. All right, she's one of the only oranges in the group here, but let's look at some of the things she might find attractive if this were to describe her. Having freedom, anything that's action-filled, things that are adventurous, that's supposed to fit her. She's supposed to be naturally playful, energetic, charming, a risk taker, test the limits, quick-witted, master negotiator, creative, inventive, a natural entertainer, and a high need for mobility. Got to be able to move around. And so you might find that personalities who are orange will we'll leave it off of just describing Miss Goggins. We'll say people who are orange typically push boundaries. They're natural nonconformist, thrive on competition at times, takes tangible rewards seriously, impulsive and spontaneous, appreciates immediate feedback, prefers informal environments, and a natural troubleshooter. I mean, usually we used to call them Renaissance people, the orange person. They can fix a computer, they can change books out, they can tell you where to find the nearest yoga spot, they can tell you where the closest beach. They're just the master Renaissance person who has access to so many different pieces of information. So that's our orange person. Gold. Gold is described as responsible, dependable, and organized. Now, I want to take a look through the chat box one more time, and let's see who we're working with in our gold group. Let's see. Oh, very similar in personalities. Oh, my God. Look at this. Mr. Nash, Miss Schultz, Miss Roop, Miss Curry, Mr. Hightower. Wow. Miss Kears, Miss Chapman, Mr. Vanderford, and so on. Oh my, Miss Roberson. Okay, group 2, the gold people. Responsible, dependable, and organized. Those are attractive things to them. They love those things. So you might hear these descriptions: being prepared, loves to plan, detail-oriented, service-oriented, values family traditions, helpful and trustworthy, traditional and stable, organized, strong work ethic, strives for a sense of security. And then you might hear these descriptions: thorough, punctual, predictable, precise, value order and the status quo, duty, loyalty, usefulness, and responsibility. There's a right way to do everything, tends to be sensible, follows policies, procedures, and rules, and at ease with formal environments. That's a nice description. Let's go on to our green people. That is group 4. All right. The analytical folk, intellectuals, visionary. I fall into this category professionally. Clearly, well, I did it the other day just to redo it, and I felt green, and I was so shocked. I was like, I need to do this again. I was clearly orange. I have so much personality. But I guess you could be a combination of several. Like I said, it could also be emotional based on the day. So green people, you'll catch them saying, I'll think about it. Knowledge is key. Favorite question is why. They're often theoretical, idea people, philosophical, very complex, perfectionists, standard setters, visionaries, and futurists. You never know enough about anything. They say the green group is the group of know-it-alls, and that is because the green group is often not a large group. You'll often have, if you have a room full of the other colors, you may have one or two people in the room who are categorized as green. And it looks to me that I only see in the chat box a few of them, Ms. Kaywood, Mr. Carroll, and so on. So they believe work is play and play is work, often not in the mainstream, abstract, conceptual, and global minded, need for independence and private time, and explores all facets before making decisions. Logical approach to interpersonal relationships. Let's talk about our blue. You have to have the blues in a building, in a workplace. And so we're grateful for all of the colors, but particularly the blue people, because they keep us from not killing each other. All right. So we've got to have some group three, the blue colors. They are authentic, empathetic, and passionate. All right. So they're mediators, optimistic, caretakers, imaginative, peacemakers, true romantics, cause-oriented, need to feel special, always has a kind word if you need to hear it, enjoys symbols of romance, strong sense of spirituality, sensitive to others' needs, they're nurturers, they're harmonious, they love building relationships, motivate and encourage others, look for meaning and significance, and cooperative rather than competitive. Gotta have them. And so let's just take a quick look and see. Oh, we have Miss Hood here. And let's see, Miss Dr. Marks. All right. I'm just clicking through. You know, we're killing this chat box, so I can only see certain ones, but I'm sure there are more of them. So we have to have our blues in our group. All right. So as a teacher, what might this mean by the categories? So if you walk into a classroom and everything is already on the board and you have to turn in this paper today at 4 p.m. 4:01, I just cannot take it. It just hurts my feelings. You're probably a gold. If I am the center of knowledge in my classroom, and although I do not mind sharing that space with students to be involved in the learning process, then I am a green. If my class is the class to be in because you know from day one that we're going to laugh until the last day of school and we're going to have so much fun and I'm going to be excited at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're probably orange. And if I have any feelings involved, because I really want you to care about the things that affect your life, and I holistically address students because I have to see that all of their needs are met. Usually they're the snack teachers that you can go in there, draw and get snacks yourself. Those are blue teachers. Gotta have them all though. So we typically say that gold teachers are institution oriented, that blue teachers are student centered, green teachers are subject centered, and orange teachers are more hands on. So I know particularly most of you that know me well know that I teach at West Georgia. I teach political science and sociology. And as flexible as I am with kids in high school, I almost have no flexibility for you not learning sociology when you leave my sociology class, right? Most people that take my class are non-majors. But in my mind, you just have to get the subject. Like you have to understand the social world. And so I'm very green in that environment. But let's look at the next part of those routines. You might have structure routines in gold. You might have imaginative teaching in blue, and then logical presentation of material in orange, and then dynamic spontaneous teaching in orange. So these match exactly what we saw in the descriptions for them presented earlier. So let's reframe them a little bit. Others perceive orange as, and I'm going to pull up the other side of it too, because an orange person, this is the part that we really want to get to, perception. People often say, I don't have to care what other people think about me. I don't have to care what my students think about me. Other teachers in my department, I don't have to worry about that. Well, the truth is, you actually need to be concerned about that. You don't have to do anything about it, but you at least need to be aware, right? And I'm keeping my language clean because most of y'all know I have potty mouth sometimes. So my little preferred words for that aren't coming out, but I'm keeping it together. You know, Mr. Smith is rubbing off on me, I think. All right, so orange people might see themselves as spontaneous, carefree, but others might translate that as flaky and being a goof off. Orange person might say, I'm the best negotiator, but other people might say that negotiation was really manipulation. An orange person might say, I'm open ended, but someone else in another color might translate that as resisting closure or indecisive. One more. An orange person might say, I could juggle many things. You could give me all of the projects. And others might see that as not being able to stay on track. So that perception might not be realistic, but you at least need to be aware of what the other colors see that as, right? Because it's really helpful so that you know when I do this, I need to at least communicate that this is the purpose in which I'm doing these things. Love it. Gold, let's look at the same perceptions. A gold person might say, well, you know, I'm the executive type. I'm loyal to the organization. Knowing right from wrong is my thing. I always have a viewpoint. But others might say, well, that's actually being bossy. That's being controlling. It's system bound. It's a little judgmental and it's opinionated, right? Now, those descriptions, if you ever want to know what people think of them, if you have another color living in the house with you, they're usually more willing to tell you what they think of those translations, right? So if I were to ask someone who grew up with me, you know, or if, you know, I ask Quentin, what do you think about if you know, this, for an example, being firm in structure? That could be translated as inflexible. Because when are the times that we need to be more firm in the structure? And then when is it important for us to also be rigid and inflexible? Are there necessary moments to be rigid? Are there necessary moments to be inflexible? And for some of you, that answer might be yes, and that's okay. But you need to know that if you call it firm, others have another term for it. And it may not always be so positive. Green. So, like I said, I fell into the green category this time. So I might say that I have superior intellect. If you need knowledge, I got it. Others might translate that as intellectual snob, intellectual snob. Rational and logical, but others might see it as unfeeling, aloof, way too cool. I might call it a perfectionist. Others might see it as fault finding and critical. So I have to be careful when I, you know, come in for observations and I want to share with you my ideas of what I think you should be doing, because that assistance might not come off the way I intended it to come off. So I have to practice ensuring that I'm doing it in a way that you can receive it. And the same thing occurs with children. As you're giving feedback to them, as you're, you know, telling them what you really think about that last assignment, your intentions might be seen as one way, but the translation of those intentions may not be received in the way in which you plan to give them. So blues, deeply sensitive, great communicators, desires harmony, compassionate, gives everyone the benefit of the doubt. Don't you love that person in the room who everybody deserves a chance? I don't know. Well, you know, she probably didn't mean to go off on you, right? I love those blue people. We got to have them. But others might see that as you're being a pushover. You're overly emotional and you're too easily persuaded. She meant to do it, right? So it just depends. You never know. All right. Did we get stuck? So we've gotten all of the colors discussed, and I provided you in the pre-work some information that you can use later because I don't want to go over time. So I'm going to stop the slide, and I do at least want to give us 5 minutes toward the end to discuss some of the discoveries you have and the thoughts you have about that presentation and the ideas that come along with it. Can you see the pre-work? Can I get a thumbs up? Yes. Okay. All right. So if you go down into the slides, if you were to do this presentation yourself, I gave you the whole set just in case, talking about how we describe the colors, being prepared, the question why for greens, just do it for the orange, spontaneity. Um, how does that make you feel with the blue people? And then we even go further down into more descriptions where you can use to have a discussion about, and we would have done that if we had more time today, breaking up into groups and sharing some of our thoughts about our colors. But I also want you to particularly pay attention to some of the last few pages where it talks about how the colors speak in conversation, and then how they receive conversation and information. That's toward the end of the packet. If you keep going past the separate colors, you will see those attributes outlined for you. I think you'll really enjoy looking at how clear and precise information might be seen as relating to what others are saying without feeling. So take a look at those. I think you'll enjoy just playing around with some of this information and seeing if it is applicable to you. So I won't go further into these because, like I said, I provided it in the pre-work, but I would love to hear from you. If some of you've taken this before, what your colors were previously. Keep in mind, we only have 5 minutes before we have to go to the next group. But I would like to hear back from some of you and some of your thoughts and the descriptions, whether they fit you professionally or personally, and what are your thoughts about them. I see Ms. Sewell, your hands is up. Tell me about it.
Okay, so I actually took this test in college, and I was a blue then, and I'm a blue now. I don't think I'm over emotional. I'm just passionate.
I think the description said your passion is translated as something else to other colors, but I agree with you. You are passionate.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was rude. That was rude. But other than that, I think everything else is pretty spot on. Except the smothering. I don't smother nobody.
What about you, Ms. Marrero? I saw your hand up as well.
Yes, hi. I'm very gold. I always been very gold. However, I do have a tad of green in me. And I think, just listening to everything, I think that I do have a question, how you maneuver, every day in the classroom with so many personalities, so many colors, and you kind of try to suppress at times who you are as a teacher. I don't want to say to conform, but to be in a level where everybody's happy and everybody's okay with who you are.
That's an excellent point. Your combinations, first of all, matter. If you are green gold, you're definitely you're different from green blue, right? So, the blue person has the emotional side of it. Lately, I've been more of a green orange. And so I'm being intellectual and theoretical plus a lot of energy. So in my classroom, when I was teaching, I used to organize my kids first before I had preliminary data by their true colors. And the reason why I did it, and I would always have, my orange group was my group of talkers. They will always be willing to talk. And so I would either put them all in the front of the classroom because I don't want to hear it, or I would put them spread out so that they would help others start to talk in group work, or I put them all in the back so I don't have to listen to them. So, you can make some decisions and start out. I think it does help with your students because you get to see where they kind of fit in. And when you're deciding groups, if you say, okay, I need someone to be the speaker of the group, that orange is going to be willing to be the speaker. The green person is going to be the know-it-all. So you're going to get the research you need. The gold person is going to be the person that's probably going to volunteer to write down the notes. And the blue person is going to keep them from hurting each other. So you can mix up that group and just try to, see if it works out. I think it'll be so much fun. It's a great way to start the year out next year with your classes to get to know them early on.
There's anything out there as far as maybe strategies in the classroom, maybe for classroom management or to be more effective, that it's guided towards the colors? And
so True Colors is extensive, but it's not as great as, let me recommend Myers-Briggs assessment, the MBTI, because they actually have a component that will tell you as teachers what are some of the behaviors that you might expect of yourself and your students based on your categorization. If you've done Myers-Briggs before, I am ENTJ. And so I'm an extroverted, intuitive, very thinking-based, judging person. Not judging in a negative way, but judging as I make the decisions. And so those, I see Mr. Sapp has his response there too. He's ENFP. So I like to put all of these together so I can have self-discovery. And so I would do that if I were you. I saw Mr. Sapp's hand as well. I want to hear from you, Mr. Sapp.
So I'm definitely blue-green. I definitely feel like I feel like if I'm by myself and I'm at home, I'm just my own person, I'm definitely more green. I am a very independent thinker. If we were discussing a lot of hot button issues, odds are I have a different opinion than most people in the room. I'm logically driven in those circumstances, and I can sometimes carry that with me, like if I'm preparing for lessons or things like that. But I feel like as soon as I run into the kids, that's when I start being more emotionally driven. I start feeling sympathetic, compassionate. I want to mediate. I've always been a mediator my entire life. I've been the person that people would come to diffuse situations. So I feel like I'm a strange mixture of those things. It's like I would rather be logically driven at all times, but I have a heart for people. So when I see people, and being authentic is important to me. Like, I would rather be 100% myself and you either just say, you know what, he's not my cup of tea, than to try to pretend to be something
That you're not.
or be what I think you think that I should be.
And the best thing about it, you're so blue that you started out your conversation by saying, I feel twice. So that's a good thing for blue. I know it is 10:59, so the next group is starting. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and let you guys go. But if anyone that wants to continue conversation or you have a question for me after, I will remain here so that others can go on to the next group. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you, sir. It was interesting.
Thank you.
No problem.
Dr.
Thank you.
Reese, it
Yes.
was fun. It was